Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're located around the country. I want to say thank you for joining in with us tonight. What we're going to do doing a series of how money works. And we talked about a subject of how money works during our last meeting. And tonight is going to be very similar, but it's going to be based on families and marriage and money. And some of the things that we're going to cover tonight are going to seem so fundamental. Ricky, I already knew that. I didn't have to log on to a 30-minute meeting to learn that. I want you to hang in with us for a little while, though, and sometimes reminding of the fundamentals can make all the difference in the world sometimes. We're talking about money and marriage, and this is a pretty serious combination here. And I want to talk about the money moon. We know about the honeymoon, but when the honeymoon is over, there's a money moon. The money moon is when everybody has gone home. They got back on the planes and in the cars and on the buses. They've sent you all the gifts and they said congratulations and everything else. And now the money moon is here. That includes the financial life. And we're going to talk about that part tonight. And there is a checklist, whether you are getting married or already been married for a period of time. And you want to create a simple program. And this program is created, ladies and gentlemen, in the beginning of the relationship. I didn't say now, after you say, and I do, and I will, right here in the beginning. Like having a household budget that you could create and also stick with it. That's number one. Then also paying down as much debt as you can before you got married. This is so important. And I've seen so many cases, I'm sure you as well, that people get married and they get all these surprises. They say, my God, I didn't know you had this much debt. And so when they come into that, not really having any idea, it kind of takes them for a tailspin. And there's a way to avoid that. The fourth thing is this key word here, together. Start saving for tomorrow, but do it together. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with couples over the last 30 years that they do things so separate. And sometimes that is because they didn't start it out in the beginning. And I'm not trying to offend anybody here. I just want to tell you the truth tonight. And hopefully this is going to help someone that's planning to get married. And it's going to help somebody else that's already married. You're going to plan for the unexpected. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more shortly. Then also as a couple, the key word here is create a total, that word right there, a total financial planning strategy. And sometimes what happens, the person get married, they think, well, this is the one thing that's important to me. And then she says, well, this is the one thing that's important to me. He says, that's not a real big deal. You know why? Because they're not thinking about a total financial planning strategy that entails 5 things. If we have time, we're going to talk about those 5 things tonight as well. Also, it's important to create a budget. Now, I want to kind of break this down. This is going to look kind of theoretical. And you heard people say, and I've heard this too, that the cleanliness of theory is no match for the mess of reality. But this is a pretty good theory right here I want you to think about. 50% of our income should be for the needs, the essentials, living essentials, like rent, like insurance, like food, like transportation, like utilities. I want to add one more into that, which is giving. There's something powerful about giving. I won't get into all the details of that tonight, but I don't know if it's a psychological effect, it's an internal effect. It does something to you emotionally when you give. I think that's a part also of that 50% piece of the budget. The other piece is 30% of the wants. This is like a flexible spending. These are things you want to buy, but don't really necessarily need to buy. I just want to get that extra this or that extra that or that new outfit. And then the other 20%, this is going to be for savings. This is financial goals. Like, I want to get out some of this debt. I want to pay this stuff down. I want to have a savings and an investment account. That's the biggest piece of the pie. I guess you could call this the 80-20 concept. And that's something that takes some time to get used to. Then also learn the debt do's and the debt don'ts. It's important in the beginning to break any bad habits that you may have had over the years before getting married, or bad habits that will develop even after you've gotten married. Now, I can name a lot of bad habits, but I don't want to I promise somebody's gonna think I'm picking on them, and I promise you I'm not. Okay, this is a course, a training session we're doing tonight, and there are some bad habits that were developed before and after marriage. So we want to break those. Number two is don't live beyond your means. Don't try to live like the Joneses. You've heard of them, and you don't know what the Joneses do, what kind of overtime they work, what kind of income they make. Just don't try to live like the Joneses. Do you, and then also be honest. How many times have you anybody on the webcam tonight bought something and brought it home and hid it way back in the back of the closet? I mean, just hid it behind that couch that nobody ever looks behind this couch. Hid it out there in the garage somewhere, way behind something up under the. So those kind of secrets come back to get you. Also, the next thing is don't abuse credit. It's easy to abuse credit, and that causes a lot of problems. And also, the question here is, what's more of a downer, more of a financial downer than debt? Well, here's what the studies say: having two people in debt. I want you to think about this, ladies and gentlemen. 7 out of 10 Americans who get married, they're gonna have some kind of debt. I mean, debt that's kind of common. But it also can be a relationship deal breaker. Listen, there are people that have been married now for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, that because one cannot get the debt under control, they go their separate ways. Now, what I'm telling you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. Now, sometimes the truth will make you mad, but I've learned that it will also make you free, set you free. And I'm saying this because I think this is somebody on the webcam tonight. Bring it under control, and do it for the benefit of the whole family, and it's going to make a difference in the long run. Don't live beyond your means. I want to say that again. As much as 70% of millennials, and the millennials are making more money now than their parents and grandparents have ever made. Some of them are making 2 and 3 and 4 times more per year than their parents and grandparents. And yet they live month to month. In other words, paycheck to paycheck. And one paycheck away from being homeless outside sitting on the curb. 47%. Now, this is also pretty amazing. I want you to really think about this. 47% of couples in this country don't know their spouse's credit score. Now, we all know that the credit score ain't going to, if you got a good credit, it ain't going to keep you together because you got a good credit score. A lot of other things go in with that. But they've done some research. The research says that the closer the credit scores are to one another, the higher the likelihood that they're going to stay together for the long term. In other words, if one has an 850 and one has a 450, they got some work in that they got to do, the one with the 450, because there's a great gulf there. You know, you can research anything now. And they've done this over a period of years with a lot of people, and that has been the ending result. It's also important to think about this thing called a rainy day. And I think all of us on this webcam know tonight that, and you've had some rainy days in your life, things that came up. That's why it's important to develop an emergency fund, because you never can tell when those things are going to come up. An emergency fund is like 6 months, 3 to 6 months of all your living expenses. Just put that aside. I was talking to a new gentleman that I just got a chance to meet with, a friend of mine at church on Sunday, and we was talking about, he has about a good amount of money put aside, and we talked about that amount of money should be left there in a bank, something close by. You're not trying to make any money on that emergency fund. It needs to be there when you need it. Then there's a short-term goals. Short-term goals are for what they call big ticket purchases. It may be a down payment on a car, or it may be to pay cash for a car, depending on how long you want to put that money aside. Also, the child's education. Also, retirement. You see, Social Security, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to be enough. It was never meant to be all-inclusive for retirement. Social Security was meant to be an income, a retirement income supplement. Maybe only 1/3 or 1/4 of what you would need, what we need to have in retirement is made up by Social Security. Now, it is a very important part, and in many cases, a very necessary part, but it's not designed to be the whole part for retirement, because that gets us in a real bad place. Now, when it comes down to emergencies, less than 4 in 10 Americans have enough money put aside if they ran into a $1,000 problem. Something that costs $1,000, for most people, 4 in 10, they have to go and borrow that money, put it on a credit card, or go and talk to brother or sister or cousin or parents, because that money is not set aside. Now, this meeting tonight is not meant to be a pessimistic meeting. It's meant to be an optimistically realistic meeting, to where we look at what things are right now and what things can be if we put things in the proper order. That's the whole idea tonight. Now, saving for the short term. Now, let's talk about wants versus needs. Now, I want you to tell me now, is a summer vacation a want or a need? I mean, everybody, I can hear you now saying, well, my goodness, if you worked on my job, where I work at, you'll know a summer vacation is a need for me, because I'm around all these kids all day long. I'm around this hospital, all these patients all day long, or I'm on this job with these folks acting crazy all day long, and the post office, or state of Alabama, state of Mississippi, state of Georgia, Pennsylvania, California, New York, wherever you are tonight. It's a need. But is it really? You see, also, you want to think about this. I want to get a brand new appliance. I want to get a brand new refrigerator. There's one out there now that can make 5 kinds of ice cubes. 1 square, 1 triangle, 1 little bit of small grinds, and I got to have it. It ain't but $5,000. Do you really? Is it a want or a need? Then the other part is travel. I want to go to Dubai. Well, depending on what you have put aside right now, you might have to put Dubai off for a later time. Then also the big ticket purchases. I want to get me a brand new, big, giant, pretty, shiny car. I want to park it in my garage. I want all my friends to know I got a brand new car. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens in marriages. Young couples get together, and they buy things they really don't need, trying to impress people they really don't know, with money that they really don't have. And it ends up falling back on them when they get used to the item that they bought that they could not afford. What I'm talking about tonight, this is basic economic common sense information that we often don't hear at home coming up. And as a result of that, when we get big, so to speak, we go out and we start spending, and that hurts us. So it's better to pay cash when you have these little bitty things than to use those credit cards, because credit cards can cause a lot of major problems. So it's important then to have a game plan. Now, when I talk about a game plan, I want to talk about term insurance. You say, Ricky, why would I buy a term policy? Why not just buy a whole life policy, a universal life, or an index universal life policy, which is a modified version of whole life, a modified version of universal life, an adjustable universal life, all these different names, variable life. I don't know what to get, Ricky. It's just so much out there, so confusing. Well, think about one thing. Why do you buy it in the first place? I mean, really and truly now, why do you buy life insurance in the first place? It is to replace the loss of an income in the event of a premature death. Death is always premature, in most cases, when you got a little bit of kids especially. And the objective is to create an immediate estate, to leave a legacy, to leave wealth generation, to replace your income for a period of time, for a term. Why term? Because your kids are not going to be kids forever. They're going to grow up and get grown and get gone. You're not going to have a mortgage forever. Typically 30 years after it's going to be paid out. You're not going to have the same kind of debt forever, the same kind of desires when you get 70 years old that you have at 35 or 40 years old. Debt will become lower as you get older. So you need insurance for a term during those peak responsibility years when you have all these obligations on you. But when that time is up, there's a transition. In the transition, we need cash money, not life insurance. So you buy term insurance and then save the difference in a mutual fund, specifically, in most cases, a Roth IRA. When you take that money out of that Roth IRA, you can take it out tax exempt, tax free. Just keep it for the first 5 years. Don't touch it for the first 5 years, and you take it out tax exempt at 59 and a half. That's why you buy term, ladies and gentlemen. It's cheaper, and you get a whole lot more. And that's what hey, look, that's what financial advisors buy and financial coaches. That's what they buy. They sell a whole life. Well, it's a lot more commission. I mean, I think there's enough said on that. The other important thing is a will. Now, everything living at some point on this world, this system here is going to die. You know, from an earthly standpoint, okay, you get out of here. And it's important to have a legal document that gives instructions on who's going to get what, why, and when. Because if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. If you got kids, or even particularly those that have young kids, you don't want the state to decide who's going to raise your kids. If the kids are adults now, and they're out there, got their own jobs and working, you don't want your kids to stop speaking to one another because they think they should have got the car, they should have got the house, they should have got the land, they should have got the living room suite. They should have got, you'll be amazed how people just fall out because it wasn't in writing. It should start right there, ladies and gentlemen, making sure you have it in writing. You see, this can seem intimidating. You're talking about planning for the unexpected, Ricky. That's a lot. Which, if somebody were to die, that's unexpected. You're talking about planning for retirement, Ricky. That's either a long ways away or it's not a long ways away. And that's somewhat intimidating. You're talking about paying off my debt, my credit cards, my student loans. You're talking about paying off my car payment and my house. Man, we're just getting started. I just can't talk about all this. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're just getting started, or you've been married now for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, this is the one subject. If it's not brought under control, will lead to a lot of other unnecessary problems. Now, we have something called a financial needs analysis. Now, there's 3 C's here I want you to look at right here. Complementary, confidential, and customized. You may say, Ricky, can't nobody work for free. And I know that Primerica's financial coaches or all that work in the company can't work for, I don't work for free, you don't work for free, we don't work for free. We do a financial needs analysis, and in our mind, we see it as an economic financial blueprint. But obviously, we don't want to build a blueprint and you take let Merrill Lynch build a house, so to speak. So no, we don't charge anything. It's complimentary, it's confidential, and it's customized, and it's based on your numbers. And we simply, once we get together, we'll implement concepts that can benefit you in the long term, and we get paid from the company. You don't write us a check for $2,500 or whatever the financial needs analysis is valued at these days. I don't know what it's valued at, but I heard there's a lot of value in talking about this, bringing things to your mind again and showing a family how to save 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 in interest and how to retire with some dignity is a pretty big deal. So when your financial future is concerned, the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to live happily ever after? And I hear a lot of folks say, man, I want to live happily ever after. Well, you can live happily ever after, but you're going to have to be ready, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to get ready to close this meeting. I want to show you something that a friend of mine did some time ago. And he's a pastor of a church, so I can't get into all the details because he covered a lot of ground in a short period of time, and he did a whole series. And I'm going to tell you why. And then I'm off the presentation now. I want to just kind of go over some notes that I want you to think about as I close this meeting tonight. He talked about maintaining a healthy, God-centered relationship with money when it came down to legacy planning. His name is Pastor Stephen Huntley in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, so I just put a few notes together because I came down and talked for a few minutes. And we talked about the 5 areas a few moments ago. These are the 5 areas I want you to think about. Protection, debt, expense, asset, income, management. Now, when I say that, what do you mean protection, Rick? And I want to kind of reemphasize this again. Family life insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, that's legacy planning. Having a will, a living will, a durable financial power of attorney. Having the proper limits of liability on your car. Having the proper dwellings on your house. And in some cases, having long-term care insurance. Experts recommend having that at a certain time in life. You know what the family history is. Dementia, Alzheimer's, that stuff is real. and it is a real mean disease. And also debt management, putting everything on paper. Take the time and write down the mortgage, the balance, the payment, and the interest rate. Take the time to write down the cars, the balance, payment, and interest rate. Write down all the banks and finance companies, the balance, payment, and interest rate. Student loans, same thing. Write it all down. Look at your current budget. And there are 5 areas you want to always look at, like the housing, family, giving, transportation, and leisure. These are some pretty important areas here, and that some tend to take more money than others. For an example, that cell phone, I mean, I'm sure you know of cases, I know of cases where people are paying $500 a month for cell phones. They got everything on that phone that they can possibly get that they never use. Cable TV, people got 700 channels, and they don't have time to watch all that television because they're working all the time. They got kids, they got little leagues, they got softball, baseball, then they got football, and everything else is going on, basketball. Then in the area of family, there's clothing department here. When you look at that part of the budget, I've seen people spend, and I'm sure you have as well. I mean, I had one case, I can't even say, it was a lot of money, over $2,000 a month just on clothes. Birthdays and that type of thing is always another area that you got to watch real close. Christmas sometimes and graduations can go way overboard where a person goes in debt. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. They go in debt in December, in November, December, well, really January, February, March. They start planning, but around September, October, November, they go into a lot of debt for that one day. Nothing is wrong with Christmas and giving and understanding and having fun and enjoying family time. But to go in debt and take a whole year to pay it off until the next Christmas, I want to just ask you something. Does that help the family? Or does that hurt the family? You know, just think about that. It's important. Then also another area that I've seen with our young couples is right here, eating out. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so easy to spend so much money eating out when you know how to cook. Think about that one. I've counseled and worked with some couples, or talked to some couples, I should say, and I've seen them spending, even single parents, a large percentage of their income. Ruby Tuesdays, Old Charlie's, Thank God It's Friday, Chick-fil-A, Mickey D's, Burger King, and all the rest of them. And they wonder why they can't get ahead. It's because the money is going right here in the belly. And I encourage, and I want to encourage you to do the same thing. I want you to take some time. I want you to go 30 days and write down every cent spent. In these 30 days, write down every cent spent and on what expense. So what did you spend on the water bill, gas bill, power bill, education, hairdresser, animal care, religious giving, family giving, all that you see here, oil changes. I mean, even if you got a bag of chips, what do you spend? I don't care if it costs $1 or $100. For the next 30 days, track it. And you're going to be amazed 30 days later. And listen to this. When you track it, get a yellow highlighter. And when you track it, don't try to be real fancy. Just get a pad, get a notepad, and an ink pen. And in 30 days, get your yellow highlighter and go in and cross out. I didn't need that. Didn't need that. I didn't have to have that. You're going to be amazed at how much money was spent unnecessarily. We're talking about wants versus needs. The other important thing I want to talk to you about is asset management real quick here before we run out of time here. You want to think about when you want to retire. You want to think about what do you have right now saved? What are you adding to it every month? You want to think about what you currently have in your checking and savings account, which is in a large sense a part of your emergency fund. Now, think about that. Now, let me ask you this. Is it wise to go out and buy a big ticket item and the checking account right now is in a negative? Is it wise to go and purchase something that's going to cost you $600, $700 a month, $800 a month? And right now, right currently, you're waiting on the next direct deposit to meet the current bills? You see, a salesperson on a car lot or wherever it may be can make something sound like it's the best thing on the planet Earth. And if you don't get this today, you ain't gonna, in your whole lifetime, you'll never have a deal like this again. You hear that? You need to run off the lot. Okay. So that's important. It's also important to look at the house money. We call that the petty cash. What do you have inside of the home? Just kind of when you need money sometimes. Income management, you want to write down what is your current gross income? I mean, what do you, before they take anything out, but then also what is your net income? What do you bring home? The net income. What are all the paycheck deductions? Sometimes people have things coming out of their paycheck and they have no idea what's coming out. And there may be something that you don't need or something that you got a while back and decided you don't really need it and it's still coming out of your paycheck. Examine the paycheck deductions and know what they are. If it doesn't benefit you, go down to HR or payroll or the controller and whoever runs that at your company and stop it. Just tell them just stop it. And then also look at ways that what you could do to generate more income. If you need to work part-time, it's all right. Don't be embarrassed saying, what are people going to say? Then listen to this. They're not going to pay your bills. They're not going to send your kid to college. They're not going to buy you any groceries. They're not going to put shoes on your feet, clothes on your back, a roof over your head. Don't worry about what people say. I'm going to close the meeting here. For those that I invited out tonight, or anyone that's on the call tonight, I want you to scan that QR code. There's a book in that QR, there's a book there called How Money Works. Once you've downloaded that book, I want you to call the person that invited you out tonight and get with them. And then let them talk to you in more detail. Now, if you didn't get the QR code, they can send that book to you as well. Because I'd rather them send that book to you as well so you can really deal with them directly. But ladies and gentlemen, we can change our entire life. This is not rocket science. This doesn't take a 4-year degree to understand. It's basic common sense. I can't spend more than I make. I can't send out more than I bring in. If I want to change my quality of life, I got to either increase my income or decrease my expenses or both of them. And I want you to know how much we appreciate you logging in for this 30 minutes tonight or 28 minutes, or whatever the time frame is. I want to encourage you to get with the one that invited you out tonight and sit down and discuss this in more detail and talk about ways and means to bring it under control. Whether you're just getting married, whether you're engaged to be married, whether you're cohabitating and thinking about putting your life together right now, and whatever the case may be, I've been married for a period of time. Let's sit down together and let's talk it over. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great rest of the evening, and we'll talk to you hopefully soon. Take care.